What's the surefire way to get your crowd hyped up? We're talking on some rap styles. Just come out and say, what the beep? Yo, y'all feeling it? Everyone hype? Put your hands up, get hyped. You gotta use it in the context that is correct. I will pride myself on saying, as far as a ton of MCs that I know and that I respect, been lucky enough to travel around the world with, I'm probably the least swearing rapper that I know. But in the context of getting the crowd hyped up, as soon as you come on stage and you can hit them, let's be honest, man, everyone's there to party. Get them hyped, get their attention, and then go into your set. In regards to technique, mic techniques with corded mics or cordless mics, wireless mics. I grew up in the old school, so we grew up on corded mics. In fact, I'm even old schooler than that. No one I knew could afford a corded mic, so everyone was just rapping into headphones. But when you get a corded mic, and sometimes it still happens, to be honest, usually about 95% of the time they just sound better because they're actually dialed into the house system. But you get to do some fun things. Not everyone plays around with stuff like this, but you can dangle. If I ever see I'm gonna give the farm away right now, but if I ever see a heating system or a water pipe or something and I can actually loop the mic through and I can dangle it like an old school boxing announcer mic without having to touch the mic, and it can just hang there, and then I can pop it back through. You can do one of my favorites, which is the bow and arrow. There's tons of stuff. You can swing it around, just make sure your proximity isn't gonna hit anyone, but you can wrap it, you can drop it, you can let it dangle. Now, let's just unplug this for a sec and say, it's now a wireless. Not sure if I can get the balance right here. One of my favorites is the levitator. You can kind of just hold it and play around with it. Well, hopefully you got a rap partner who's also distracting, sleight of hand. But there's tons of stuff that you can do with the cordless as well, like the behind the neck. You can do the dagger. Tons of fun stuff you can do with this. Look, I'll be honest, I've chipped my teeth, I've broken some teeth, I've fattened my lip, I've lost it. I think I maybe accidentally hit someone in the temple one time, had to buy him a t-shirt. The mic is a tool, it's an instrument, respect it and it will respect you, but it can also be your best friend because that's our instrument, yo, straight up. My take is I just feel lucky enough to be there. I'm stoked I get to do what I love for a living. I grew up in the theater. I've always been able to read people's body language, and there's some fun ways that you can use that to your advantage as well. If you see someone chatting with their friend, whether or not they're saying, because you can't hear them, they're 8 rows back, you say, hey, hold on. I hope you guys are talking about how dope the show is. Just assume they're talking about how dope the show is. Or if you see someone just kind of walking off and doing something, yo, you're really leaving right now? During this part of the song? Rob, rewind it back, let's go. Stand where you are, make a new friend, shake hands. Use every piece of body language to your advantage because that's where the camaraderie comes from. Keep in mind, this is something that I think is underspoken in this industry. As an artist, we have a certain landscape and a certain viewpoint. What we don't necessarily see, although we see the connectivity, what we don't see is the connectivity that happens after the show. You hope that you've done a performance to the point where people are talking about it after. It's your job to not only do the best thing that you can on stage and deliver your lyrics and make sure the songs sound great, you also have a duty to fulfill in that you need to make sure that you're building a family and building a tribe to the point where they're not just talking about the show. You get off stage and you go, maybe you have your 5-minute break after you get off the stage, and then you go and you chill with those people. You're not saying you have to buy a t-shirt, just cool out, man, have a beer, have a glass of water, whatever. And I'm telling you, man, you end up going for dinner with these cats, you end up building family and friends that you would never know. That to me is the real base of being an honest and true musician. Build a community around the stuff that you love doing creatively. Here's a piece of advice as far as riders go, if I may. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. One of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was from an audio engineer. These were the days we were quite raucous. I'm climbing everywhere, I'm jumping off of monitors, I'm standing on the wedges, I'm swinging the mic around like it's a Thor's hammer Mjolnir. I'm climbing the speakers one day, so I feel someone grabbing on my pant leg. And I look down, I think it's one of the fans, it's the sound guy. And I'm like, hey man, what are you doing, dog? I'm 12 feet in the air, what are you doing? He's like, get off my gear, get off my gear. I jump into the crowd, we finish the show, we wrap up, we're at the merch booth, and he comes up to me, he says, Prev, the same people you see on the way up are the same people you see on the way down. And at the time, I just kind of was like, it was going down, dog. The only person going down is me off the monitor when you tried to yank me by the pant leg. And it took about a year for it to actually settle in. The more you ask for, the more you think you're getting, the more you ask for, the less you're actually receiving. It's such a valuable point that took me, unfortunately, too long to learn. Be humble, be thankful, be grateful, get what you feel that you deserve or what you're worth, but don't ask for anything more. Because the same people that are coordinating all those contracts and booking all those shows are the same people in 3 years that are going to be doing the same thing. Whether your star has shone very brightly or has started to dim a little bit, but you're still in the galaxy of entertainment, respect the people that have the telescope. Historically, I get nervous in 2 cities only. Oddly enough, I think just because they're both such bastions and hubs of hip-hop activity. I always get nervous in New York, I always get nervous in LA. But I think having those butterflies in your stomach, as long as you learn how to turn it into an advantageous energy, I think can actually really be helpful. I've always loved the stage, I grew up in theater. Confidence is part of the name of the game, but it's not the penultimate. That comes with exposure. You should be a little bit nervous first time on stage. There should be some kind of angst. You've gotten yourself to a level where you're kind of going like this to the rest of the world. You're already through your songwriting and recording process, and now you've gotten to a point where people are saying how much they enjoy your productivity, and now you have to put that into a live setting. You should be nervous, but embrace that. The more you learn to embrace that, the more your confidence grows, and I think in time, the greater your stage show goes. Best stage experience, or the one that was, I think, most impactful. Lady Venom had just broke for Swollen on a rock radio station, which should not have happened, but thankfully it did. To the point where people are calling up the radio station and going, I don't dial in to listen to you guys, to listen to this rap crap. Bring back my classic rock. I want Audio Slave, I want AC/DC, I want Metallica, all groups which I love, but somehow we had this song that just was edgy enough to get in there. Caused a lot of controversy. Case in point, it got us on this thing called Snow Jam. First time in front of 10,000 people. I remember being on stage, looking around the corner, and there's no way to do the rough math when you've just come from doing maybe 1,000 people tops. You go, is that 10 times more the amount of people that we had at the Commodore a month ago? Or is that I don't know. Are there 1 million people out there? Are we at Wembley Stadium? You just really have no idea. I think it was about 10 to 15,000. And again, use that nervous energy, kind of draw it in, deep breath, show must go on, man. Go out and rock it. And that energy just hit me like a wave. And it was the most fulfilling, honest, pure interaction. I'm doing something I love, you guys are digging it, I'm digging, you're digging it, you're digging, I'm getting more hype on doing it, and it was just this constant positive friction back and forth, and I fell in love with the live show. Fell in love with it, yo. How many hours did it take for me to master my voice? 45, I started rapping when I was 14. I've been in the game 31 years and still working on it.
Pull out the feature on your speaker, you should hear me in stereo. The voice is like a posse cut, remind me of scenario. There he go again with alphabetical revenge, and everything he calculates is not identical to them. Amen.
When I got into the game, I was a freestyle MC. I hadn't recorded. Mocha Only and he kind of mentored me through after a couple of years of me being in the MC game. We were broke. We couldn't afford to go to the studio. So we were just on the street freestyling. We'd write rhymes, but we were mainly freestyle MCs, battle rappers in the true sense, so the old school way, not for money or anything like that.
Yeah, and all these motherfucking rappers out here all concerned about making dead presidents. What you rapping for? Shouldn't you be rapping for the fun of it? This shit is motherfucking awesome. In front of all these people talking and rocking and hip hopping, non-stopping. What? More.
I never really felt like I've like I've mastered my voice. For me, personally, it's still a journey that I'm working on. And you guys can't see him, but my brother's behind the camera right now. I gotta give a shout out to Spy and XL the band, where I've actually been allowed and encouraged, not only allowed, encouraged to try a little singing here and there, try different vocal tones. I'll tell you what, for me, going from the acapella street battle stuff with no beats, maybe someone was beatboxing, to hearing all the imperfections in your voice as you self-perceive it when you put the headphones on, it's a continuous journey. Vocal lessons, yes, I suggest them. I haven't taken them, but I probably should. But if you haven't yet and you're still getting into the game, I think it would really help hone the craft. How do I warm up for a show? There's a threshold. Once I get from backstage and actually cross over onto the stage, the switch flips. I came to later realize that that inspiration came from a greater appreciation for the fine arts overall. When I realized that I was starting to fill my days on tour by going to galleries, museums, eating great food, I do a 4 to sometimes 8 minute acapella freestyle. And I started to realize that the inspiration and the ammunition for all of that wordplay came from how I had spent my day. All of that stuff is fuel for the preparation to actually give back the art that you've ingested during the said course of the day. And that's where I really realized that was my true inspiration for all of this. Final words. I had no idea when I started rapping when I was 14, when I was a literal metal and rock head, when my cousin came over from the East Coast, from Nova Scotia, and introduced me. I knew what rap music was. I just honestly didn't listen. Didn't understand what hip hop culture was. My cousin sat me down and he said, "You need to listen to this tape." He played this tape and I listened and I thought, wow, I love theater, I love poetry. I can put those two things together into one activity, and I just went head first into hip hop culture. But this is pre-internet days, man. We had to go and source out tapes, order magazines, find newspaper clippings, save up our lunch money or our newspaper money to go, our paper route money to go get Word Up. This is way before XXL or anything. I'm talking Word Up and Fresh Magazine. When Biggie says that first famous line from Juicy, I literally had that zine where Salt and Pepper were stepping out of the limousine. It used to be a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. I had that issue on my wall, the little pull-out posters that were in the middle of the magazine. I get it. You had to work for it. You had to learn about it, but you felt that you were being educated on a culture that growing up in Victoria and you're reaching out all the way to New York, Chicago, Boston, and then you start seeing this thing start spreading all over the world. You go, man, I'm part of something really, really special here. You learn, you live, you put your time in, you show your respect, and honestly, you guys, if it wasn't for my mentors and the elders and the people that did this before me that helped carve and craft and solidify, not just rap the music, hip hop the culture. I can't stress it enough. Hip hop the culture, the real culture. Everyone's invited, everyone's included. There's no bias. It's all inclusionary. No one's excluded from the culture of hip hop. If you really believe in what the culture of hip hop is. Not just rap the music, the culture of hip hop. Everyone's welcome, and that is why I am still a firm believer and a firm supporter in the culture. I just happen to be on the musical side of the 4 elements that make up the entire culture. But all due respect to all my B-boys and B-girls, all my DJs, all my graffiti writers, and all my fellow MCs around the world, thank you. Prev 1, peace.